have found us. More podcast, where we want you to know God more deeply, find lasting freedom, discover your destiny and make an eternal difference. Now.
Hey, welcome to this week's podcast. Wow, another week. Here we are again. With all the things going on in the world today, isn't it awesome that you have one place you come to that you know it's going to be there every week for you? Well, welcome to this week's podcast. Do you wonder why you take the time each week to listen to more podcasts? Well, let me tell you why. MORE stands for maximizing opportunities for right now and eternity. So stop asking why you listen. Just never forget to listen and pass it on. Well, this episode has been brought to you by Cow Sweater. In this often volatile climate that we love to hate in Michigan, there are animals that never seem to get a choice as to its effects on them. Now, from the Unusual Gift Company, you can help your favorite barn animals stay cozy no matter the weather that day. Famous for their cow sweaters, now you can wrap all your animals in warm polyester blended goodness. Just type in the Unusual Gift Company in your favorite search engine and show your barn animals some love.
Now, I know you do crocheting.
I do.
And
Yeah.
I'm sending you a picture right now via your phone
Okay.
of a chicken sweater, which I think you should crochet one of these for Lisa Kay's new flock of chickens that we have acquired this last week.
I love it. That's so...
Can you do something like that?
I might be able to. I have to look at it. Yeah.
That's her favorite kind of chicken as well in the picture. It's a barred rock.
Barred rock?
Yeah.
It's a cool looking chicken. Well, we had a sponsor a while back, Rooster Shoes. Remember that? Where you can buy little sneakers for your rooster to wear around. I was thinking about like sometime going over to your house when you guys aren't there and finding your rooster and putting the shoes on there and then see if she notices. The rooster runner.
I think it sounds good.
With this little tennis
Currently,
shoes.
we are rooster-less. We don't have any roosters.
Don't
at
have
the
any
moment.
roosters yet. Okay.
Yeah, but we're okay.
Well, someday if you get a rooster, I'm going to have to head over there.
Okay.
Well, the only man in Northern Michigan who takes the phrase farm to table seriously with all of his chickens, Pastor Gary.
Hey, all right. And sitting across from me in this recording table, the man with all the talent. And he's a man who is so tough he uses pepper spray to season his meat, Pastor Alex Norton.
Yeah, you cry while you're eating your food. That's just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some of the guys that I've gotten to know here in the church, they seem to have this little competition between themselves about hot sauce. Mm-hmm. And every time the conversation will come up about, this new hot sauce they found somewhere, and all the guys are like, oh, yeah, not a problem whatsoever. And I have yet to see them actually eat that stuff in front of me.
So all talk and no action.
I think so, yeah. Okay. It's kind of like, fish stories, Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, I've tried the hot sauce that even the devil won't try.
Is there anything hotter than a ghost pepper?
Apparently, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure exactly when, what it is. I just know that there are hot sauces out there, and then there are combinations of the hot peppers. And they swear they put them on everything, from breakfast eggs to, whatever. I don't know. Well, we got a few tweets that come in while we've been sitting here and gabbing our gums. From Red Sea Miracle, hashtag Red Sea Miracle. The baptisms on Sunday were inspiring. It did seem that Chuck had to get a wave started to immerse the guys in the tank.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. When they're laying back, you kind of move them around a little bit to get the water over. Yeah.
Have you ever had that happen? I baptized a guy one time, and I'm telling you what, his head was so buoyant, I kind of had to push his head down to get it underneath the water.
Yeah. I remember when I got baptized in the Jordan River in East Jordan. Okay. The current's so strong. Oh. That my dad was doing it. He had to hold on to people's collars when he put them down because the current was starting to take them off. He started losing more congregants that way.
You come up out of the water and you look around and everyone's gone. It's like, I just missed the rapture while I was being baptized.
Where am I right now? Down the river. Here's another one. Rah Rah Club, hashtag watching people chant on Sunday in my section. I easily noticed the former cheerleaders. I don't remember Pastor Gary asking us to add choreographed movements, but apparently there were people.
There were definitely people doing the hand waving.
I know in my section, I noticed there were some cheerleaders because they started adding some dance moves to it. And like they were back in it, like they were just like being back on a bicycle.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was thinking about the first time visitors when they came that Sunday, and they're like, "What kind of church is
Exactly.
this?" I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors about this church.
Yeah, now they're all confirmed.
Now they're all confirmed with what happens. And well, those of you that are listening, it's not a regular thing, but every now and then it's good to get up and have some fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
Did you notice anybody who was getting really serious about it? And then give them
in the second service, they definitely outperformed
Yeah.
the first service with intensity,
Yeah.
and volume, and it was really good. The first service, I catch those people with a grumpy face.
Yeah.
They just come in with a grumpy face,
Right, yeah.
And I look right at them when we're doing stuff like this, and it just drives it down deeper.
I'm serious. There was somebody across the way from me. I don't know who they were, but they were mean mugging me. I mean, they were like, "Where's this competition? We're going to win." You know what I'm talking about? Like when you get into those modes of competition, man, people just get really into it. Yeah. It was almost like one of the, what's the Braveheart? It was almost like a Braveheart moment, the people were getting ready for the kingdom. Yeah, it was good. Oh, we'll take an ID break. We're back.
Welcome to the Mod Podcast with Pastor Alex and Pastor Gary. Are you ready to feel rejuvenated? I know I am. This is Friday Scene coming to you with Pastor Gary and Pastor Alex. Get ready. We're going to talk about Jesus. It's going to be a good time. All right, let's go.
Well, as we always like to do, we like to give you the news that the other news agencies don't give you because, we're more podcasts, which means that we always want to give you more. And, as I'm looking around the interweb trying to figure out what news has not been talked about, of course, I always can find something because I seem to have that ability to find those weird stories. And I found some really interesting ones on AP.
Okay.
Leadville, Colorado. What do you get when you cross rodeo with skiing? You get skijorking.
Okay.
Skijorking, yeah.
Okay.
It's an actual sport. They're actually trying to get into the Olympics, and the Olympics keeps telling them that it's not going to happen, but they try every year they submit.
Do you know one of the qualifiers for getting something added to the Olympics?
No.
Is it has to be played in, like on all 5 continents or what?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before a sport it has to be kind of more worldwide recognized and participated in. You can't just come up with your own little individual thing from your country.
Yeah. It's too bad, though. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure they do it a little bit, but
after reading about this one last week, thousands of spectators, they showed up to watch individuals with death wishes being pulled by a full galloping horse
okay.
on skis.
Okay.
And so basically they're held to the horse with a rope. They hang on for dear life, and then they smack the horse in the butt and it takes off.
That doesn't seem that extreme.
Well-
I pulled. You remember Ryan Gearhart?
Yeah.
He was like getting into snowboarding.
Okay, yeah.
And I pulled him around a field on my 4-wheeler while he was snowboarding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that worked out pretty good.
Yeah. The one person that was interviewed, he said that the horse got galloping so fast it hit ice.
Oh.
And then it fell, and then of course they
Had to
fly. Yeah, they fly over it, and they got hurt. They broke a leg and stuff. But
So the horse had to be put down.
no, the person broke the leg,
Oh,
not
the
the horse.
person?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
horse got up. It's fine. I think they said he got a bloody nose, something like that. But
Okay.
other than that, it was fine. Basically,
They had to put down the
I
rodeo
know.
person.
Too bad. Yeah, you're done. Yeah. It's it's a heart pumping white knuckle competition in which horses tow skiers by a rope at speeds of 40 miles an hour or more. They meet jumps as high as 8 feet around obstacles as they try to lance suspended hoops with a baton, typically a ski pole that's cut in half. They try
Now,
to go for.
is there someone riding the horse, or is the
No.
horse just riding?
The horse is just doing whatever it wants to do. And so
and then you just get pulled along.
You just
and try
get pulled along, yeah.
It's kind of a little free flow,
Yeah.
parkour, ski, rodeo.
right, and you just hopefully make it to the end.
Okay.
And then the horse will stop, hopefully. Or you let go.
Let go of the
yeah.
rope, right.
They said that last year, though, they added a few other levels of competition. So there was one by being drawn by a car
Okay.
and being drawn by a motorcycle.
Was anyone driving those, or were those?
They
just-
were they were driving, they were driven. But the horse is just like, it's up to himself. It's like just you're in it for the ride. Here's something that you might like, being a golfer. I thought this is pretty interesting. Auburn University student connected on a long distance shot on a basketball court on Saturday to win a car.
Okay, so they What did they do?
They putted a
Putted a
golf ball from one side of the basketball court to the other
and made it.
in a hole in one. Well, I was thinking about how hard that is though, because a basketball court is kind of slippery. There's not green to keep it, you know, so it could slide around. But apparently this person made it. Connor Boyle made the 94-foot putt, rolling a golf ball from one baseline and threw a sign next to the opposite basketball hoop during this promotion, the second half of Auburn's game with Georgia. After the putt found the small opening on the sign, Boyle raced around the court celebrating while fans erupted. And TV cameras showed Auburn guard Katie Johnson looking on from the bench with a stunned expression because nobody's ever done this before. And this person apparently was one of the first ones. His mouth was wide open. He's caught on camera doing that. Boyle was the first winner of the promotion, winning a car from a local Toyota dealership. Craig Noyes, a writer for the university student-run site, the Auburn Plainsman, said this is amazing that he won this competition because nobody's ever done it.
Wow.
I guess they're kind of banking that nobody's going to do it.
There's an insurance policy that you can take out on stuff like that for all hole-in-ones and stuff.
Oh,
like
really?
That. Yeah. I looked it up while we were kind of in preparation. The longest made golf putt in competition.
Yeah.
Guy named Jay Stocky. He made a 401-foot 2-inch putt.
Really?
That's 122 meters.
That's crazy.
Yeah, in competition. And then the longest putt made on the tour, on the PGA Tour, Jack Nicklaus, 110 feet.
Really?
Yeah, in competition during a major.
Well, okay, so a green, when you get it onto the green, that's not that far normally. So
on the PGA, their greens are bigger. Not 400 feet.
Right.
But over in Europe,
they
keep their grass so short that you can putt from almost any distance.
Really?
Yes. In Europe, a lot of their fairways are as tight as a green.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they'll putt from 100 feet all day long.
Wow. Okay. Well, so it is possible to do it pretty far.
Yeah.
I've never personally done it. I'm usually even 3 feet away from the hole.
I've seen you jump up and down making a 3-footer before. Rolling around on the green.
I get really excited. I am good for at least a few handicaps.
I've seen you get that excited on the putting green when we're practicing. Screaming, running around. I'm like, yeah, that was a 2-footer. Okay.
Well, my expectations are pretty low.
Okay.
I'm just like, if I can actually hit the ball, past the ladies' tee, I'm pretty pumped for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get pretty excited about that. Well, we're taking an ID break. Be right back.
Oh, don't go nowhere. More podcast has more to say. Get your feet moving. Get up from your office desk and start jiggling it. Yes, let's do this. You're on the More Podcast. We'll be right back.
Another tweet came in while we were sitting there talking about the news. Hashtag Christian betting. The most exciting night of last week's Jubilee dinner was watching the playoff between Pastor Gary and Pastor Amy at the end there.
Oh, that
was
coin so toss. Exciting.
Insider information, a lot of money was raised on those odds.
Yeah. Oh, really? On the extra betting?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody turned to me and said, I'll give you an extra 100, what is it, 175?
Yeah, it was 175.
Yeah, to stand up with her. And so I did.
I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then I lost in the very first round. It was, And
that was a fast 175.
I know. I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry. You just lost $175.
Yeah. I don't remember how many rounds that was. It was like 5 or 6 rounds to get, onto the stage.
It was pretty good.
It worked out pretty great.
And then you and Amy were up there.
Yeah, in the finals.
In the finals, yeah. Uh-huh. And you could just feel the tension in the crowd. They're like,
really?
Oh, yeah. It's like, this is going to be good.
Yeah, and then she got to pick, and then I had to take the remainder. So she picked heads, and I took tails, and he flipped the giant coin.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what does that say? And apparently I said, I win.
Yeah. And it was an electric bike, right?
Yeah, electric bike, and we took it home. Elise Kay has just been really excited about it, and our one of our grandsons have broke it all in. I think we're over 100 miles now just in the yard. So it's been pretty sweet.
How long does a charge last on one of those things?
He rode it the better part of a day, kind of on and off. And I've kind of looked it up online to get the instructions on how to, operate it.
Yeah.
And I'm still a little foggy on it, but it does go quite a ways and it moves along very fast. And it's got
really?
big wide tires.
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
Yeah. It's very heavy. So he did biff it the first 2 times it was on it. Yeah.
It was funny because I was talking to somebody the other day and they told me about going with the ladies of the church to go bike riding. Apparently they do a long bike ride. She shows up with a regular bike, pedal bike, and every other woman there was with an electric bike. And so she said she had to pedal like a maniac to keep up.
Yeah, and
with all these women. Yeah, and they're just breezing along.
I've been on a couple of e-bikes before. The kind that I borrowed from Pastor Matt last year.
I heard about the camera.
On the deer hunting one. You have to pedal to get it to assist.
Oh, okay.
The one that we just won, you can either do the pedal assist or just hit the button, which I haven't seen crew pedal anything yet. But you could just hit the throttle and go.
Yeah. Was a couple summers ago, I was at a little barbecue and a family brought out a bike they just purchased in Indian River.
Okay.
And they're like, you should check this thing out. It's pretty cool. And they pulled it out of the back of the truck and it had a little chainsaw motor on the back.
Really?
So somebody had rigged it up. Yeah. And I was like, this is sweet.
Louder than I'll get out.
Oh, yeah. You can hear it a mile away. It's not like an electric bike. So if you're on one of those trails and people are trying to just relax,
right?
You hear, yeah.
That's awesome.
When you rev it up, it's like.
Did I tell you about my adventure last year deer hunting? I borrowed Pastor Matt's electric bike.
No.
I had never ridden it. I rode it. I took it downstate. I was going to hunt in northern Indiana. I had to cross this 3/4 of a mile cornfield to get to the hunting spot.
Yeah.
And I had to go back there, set up the blind, come back, get the crossbow, go back. So you're going to be walking 4 or 5 miles just getting it set up. So I thought I'll just use his electric bike. I'd never borrowed it. I'd never used it before. So I got it out and I've got my whole blind rolled up on my back. It's quite large.
Yeah.
And I'm holding my chair that doesn't collapse or fold up at all. It's a full on hunting chair.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm carrying it with one hand.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to use this electric bike with the other hand riding across the cornfield.
Oh, yeah.
But there was like a little 2-track across the.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am moving.
Yeah.
Like I got it on full power, full speed. And I get across this field and all of a sudden I think the front tire hit some wet, slippery grass or something. I did the full on Superman right into everything, big yard sale everywhere.
I heard that's when your phone died.
Yeah, didn't I break my phone?
Yeah, you busted,
I broke my phone.
Yeah,
the
you
only
busted
phone
your
I've
phone.
ever broke out of all these years of having a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put the handlebar right through the screen.
I remember you bringing it in the staff meeting. You're like, look, this is what happened. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, those things can be dangerous. I think so. Yeah. Well, it's not any different. My dad used to tell me they used to make go-karts with their parents' chainsaw and ride those around.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I was asking him how he did it, and then he explained it to me. I don't know. There's a type of chainsaw. It used to be called. They used to call it the Silver Fox.
Okay.
It was like a super heavy metal chainsaw back in the day. Talking about in the 50s. And he said that thing was amazing because you just would crank it and you just go crazy. Yeah.
I had a kid in shop class in high school that had taken a weed eater motor and put it on a skateboard, and he got it to work mostly.
Yeah.
He worked on it the entire year.
I don't know if I'd want to do that. You have to have something to hold on to, like a handlebar or something.
Yeah, he was just.
When you're
he had a
cruising.
little motor on the back. I had a little steel cage around it, and he would. And then
you can weed whack the lawn and skateboard at the same time. Well, Amy was like, I want an electric bike. I'm like, no, you don't. Because I'm thinking, if those things are heavy for one.
Oh yeah.
And just my luck, she would get it way out in the middle of nowhere. The thing would die, and then I'd have to try to figure out how to get it back. I'm like, you know what? Just dream about it. Just dream about it.
It's pretty sweet. You want to come over and try it?
Don't tell her that. She might be over at your house.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm over here to say hello and use your bike. We'll take an ID break.
We want you to know God more deeply. Find lasting freedom, discover your destiny, and make an eternal difference. more podcast. Get Rapture ready with your favorite host today, Pastor Gary and Pastor Alex Norton, as they come to you with information that you need to make it through the times coming ahead and more.
Hey,
Yeah.
I looked this up while we were in the break.
Yeah. What is it?
Okay, so you know these guys that are bragging about their hot sauces?
Yeah.
I just looked it up to see what is the hottest pepper
Yeah.
that there is right now. In 2024, they just updated it with a 2,693,000 Schofield. That's the measuring, right?
Yeah.
It's called Pepper X.
Pepper X.
Pepper X. So it beats the ghost pepper.
It's like a hybrid of.
Yep. So
Why
they're-
would you want to do that to yourself?
I don't know. They said that they can get certain, Pepper X peppers
Yeah.
to go over 3 million, but right now the official one is 2.6
That's
million.
nuts.
Yeah.
You burn your esophagus out, much less your stomach. You're probably going to give yourself ulcers.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know if it ever stops burning, does it? I mean, all the way through your entire body.
Yeah, I mean,
just
it's
all the way out.
poor guy's screaming at
Yeah.
night. I can't believe I did that. Well, Joe Tath, you ask him, he's done that, and he can't do much anymore like that. But
Okay.
and I think it's because he
Probably roasted it all out.
Probably roasted himself out, and he can't do it again. But there's guys that still do it.
Wow.
Like they have to sign waivers to eat stupid food.
Yeah.
because it's so hot, and you're going to sign that away, so you can almost kill yourself trying to eat a dumb pepper. I just don't think it. And what was it a while back? The Ghost Pepper Challenge was on the internet big time, and
Okay.
and they were having teenagers that were doing it. They were getting into it, and you'd see the teenager eat it,
Right.
and then they're hyperventilating because they can't breathe because it's so hot.
Oh, okay.
And so everybody's like, "Stop doing that! It's not fun."
Right.
And the kids are still doing it. And I'm like, man, I think the most I ever did, was maybe whip a firecracker at somebody. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the most dangerous thing I ever did.
Amy told me that you guys had to put a little special guard up in your house because you were doing the ghost pepper Tide Pods or something like that. I'm teasing. All right.
Well,
Okay.
Amy puts a lot of restrictions on me because when she leaves and comes back, she's like, "Do you always buy cleaning products when I'm gone? And you're always trying to come up with new ways to do laundry."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Yeah." This last time she came back from Indonesia, I bought this stuff. Have you heard of Hygienic Tide?
No.
Oh man, this stuff is like amazing. It like kills COVID and everything. I mean, it's like it radiates the laundry, and there's like no germs left.
Okay.
So I bought some, and she's like, "You did not." And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, like try to do everything you can to kill your germs." And then she's like, I was telling her, I said, because we live with a furnace, the wood stove furnace.
Yeah.
So everything dries out,
right.
It's not very humid in the house.
Yeah.
So I started using fabric softener, but I can't use regular because it makes me itch.
Oh.
So I got the
Hypoallergenic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I started using it. I'm like, "Hey, you notice how soft the clothes are when you came back?" And she's like, "What did you do?" Yeah. So it's always an adventure when she comes home to see what I've done. All right. So on Rapture Ready News is an interesting story. Back in 2021, Barna did a survey researching what the effects of like COVID had on pastors and all the stressors that were going on in congregations. And they found out that pastors were leaving the pulpit like crazy.
Yeah.
Because of the stress was so much apparently on them over that and the congregation's pressure and all that stuff. But the Barna Group just did another survey, and they found that fewer pastors are now reporting dissatisfaction with their jobs or leaving their calling.
Okay.
And so it's sort of on a rebound. But it's only with older ministers. Like the older ministers are sticking it out. They're
Okay.
finding that younger pastors, female pastors, are stepping away from the pulpit, and they're not sticking around as long as us old guys have. which is interesting. But recently published data from the Evangelical Christian polling firm's latest report, The State of Pastors, Volume 2, you can look that up online, created in partnership with World Vision, Brother Mutual, Right Now Media, and World Impact, show that the rebounding confidence and security pastors now have in their jobs compared to the burnout they said they were experiencing as they emerged from the ravages of COVID-19 lockdowns in recent years is getting better.
Good.
While many pastors previously considered leaving their jobs, data collected by Barna from 523 online interviews with Protestant senior pastors in the U.S. from August 28th to September 18th of 2023 show that they're feeling much better. The share of pastors who said that they were less confident or wanting to leave the pulpit actually is dropped 14%. So, which is good as opposed to the 9% that it was before. I'm sorry. It was 14% in 2022. Now it's 9% in 2023.
Okay.
So it's getting better. I was just thinking about it as I'm thinking about end time issues, and it seems like it speaks a lot to what we read about Paul encouraging Timothy. You know, like in the last days, there's going to be all this stuff happening. You're going to get disappointed, delusion. There's going to be a lot of delusions as far as what it is to be a leader in the church. And it just seems like, COVID really kind of taught us a lot about our stick-to-itiveness, about the calling. I'm trying to think of the scripture where Jesus said, what kind of servant are you if you put your hands to the plow and then look back?
Right.
Yeah. It just seems like we had a lot of that going on. People are like just chucking it because of trouble. But we know as we get closer to the end times, there's going to be a lot more than a virus.
Yeah.
There's going to be persecution and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think that the level of deception, of course, is going to go right off the chart.
Yeah.
And then the world of accusation. I think we're going to start coming under incredible accusations against us personally, ministerially.
Yeah.
There's just going to be a lot of that, and you better get some thick skin.
Yeah, because it's going to come after you.
Yeah, probably COVID, the pandemic probably weeded out some of those that their skin was maybe a little too thin.
Yeah.
Because it was a tough time as a pastor.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, it was probably one of the toughest times I've personally experienced on a church-wide, whole. I think Harbor Light navigated it very well. But one of our extended ministries that encompasses a lot of different churches, that was really tough stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that really shocked me, that really made me change my thinking about a lot of things, was when we had the government come into our church and tell us we had to shut down for 2 weeks in Escanaba.
Up in the UP.
Yeah. And I
wasn't even sure the government existed up there.
Oh, yeah, they are. They're hiding.
Okay.
They come up every now and then to visit and see how things are going. But I was just like shocked. Like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we'll get the sheriff involved then if you're not going to abide by it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So we had to, the CDC served us with a I don't know, some sort of legal notice from the courts. And they're like, you have to shut down for 2 weeks because they were worried about the increasing COVID spread. So we abided by that one. And we did it for 2 weeks. And then we're like, this is stupid.
I think I would have dug in my heels.
I was,
because that goes against, goes against the Bible,
right,
and goes against our Constitution, right?
Religious freedom. Yeah. So we did it, and then after 2 weeks, I'm like, no, this is not good.
Gretchen tried to shut down all churches,
right?
But then she was immediately slapped with reality, and then she's had to say, you
can't do that.
Then they're like, you have to have less than 20 people and all that kind of malarkey. But she was overreaching. Yeah,
she was, and so we had to put up we had to put up like separators and stuff, and the people in our church came back in. All of them came back, and they took all that down, and they're like, well, let's let the CDC tell us what to do,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was just really weird, but it was really kind of a shocker. But it was those kind of stressors, like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And it's even when you're trying to get legal help, even lawyers and things were like confused as to how to allocate the law or interpret the law in that time. It was just like Twilight Zone,
right,
for like a whole year.
Yeah.
And we still did it. The interesting thing was, even though they wanted us to shut down the church for 2 weeks. They didn't want us to stop serving meals. And do the pantry.
Right.
So we had to still figure out how to do that. And so we had to come up with our own plan on how we were taking care of people coming through. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I stopped wearing my mask. I stopped doing all that. I'm like, this is not fun. This is ridiculous. And I remember telling the sheriff that came by, he's like, how are things going? And I'm like, we're not doing it anymore. And he's like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's
whatever.
what I was going to say a moment ago when you told me about that. Most of the sheriffs that I witnessed on TV and or spoke with, they're like, yeah, we're not going to enforce anything like that.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. Yeah. She's like calling on all the police departments to enforce it. Well, I remember our Walmart up there started setting up its own time frame, like when you could shop.
Yeah.
And so you can only shop to like 4:30 and then they shut everything down.
Yeah. I traveled out of state and went to a Walmart and they had, you had to wait in line and they would only let 10 people in the store at a time. So
Yeah.
you had to wait for someone to leave before you were allowed to go in.
It was the weirdest thing.
You know how long it takes people to shop?
In a Walmart?
Right.
You know,
You might stand in line for 20, 30 minutes while they're,
we for a long time, it was just like, we would go out maybe once a week just to get what we needed. Because just to deal with that problem and all the other things. I mean, it was like everywhere you went and then there was nothing open. Like none of the fast food places were open. None of the restaurants were open. Nothing was open.
Hey, do you know that church up there in Manistee, the Hiawatha Community Church?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, Harbor Light used to support that way, 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 way back when we first started.
Really?
And the leader of the Foursquare organization just called me, and asked if I could send a pastor up that way to pastor that church.
There you go.
There you go.
Who's getting the short straw on that one?
I don't know, but it was fun listening to his logic.
Yeah.
Which was it would be easier to find someone from that area already than to ship someone there, which would probably be like getting sent to Siberia from.
Yeah, isn't that the college town?
Manistee? No, that's
the other.
That's Marquette.
Marquette, yeah.
This is all the way down on the southern end of the UP.
Yeah,
it's just right over from Escanaba.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you had to go through it to get.
Yeah, I had to go through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a lot of M places up there.
Oh, okay.
So I never remember to have what's this place again?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a church up there that had been closed down since 1883, and somebody bought it because the Historical Society is like, we don't want to pay for it, keeping it up anymore. And it's in a location going back over towards the bridge, and they bought it and they started having services there. And I don't know if it was like a Presbyterian church or whatever, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. And apparently they started fixing it up.
Nice.
I was like, this is interesting. Yeah. 1883 had been just sitting there, and the Historical Society had kept it up. So they just kind of took it over, and I don't know if they bought it from them or what, but
wow.
Yeah, so it's
130
like this,
years.
Yeah, this old. It's like one of those, if you go to Mackinac, you see those Presbyterian churches where the pulpit's like way up in the middle, like 2 stories high above the congregation. Sort of the same thing. It's like way up there.
Right.
So you had to climb up the steps to get up there to do the message. I thought it was kind of cool. I was told him, I said, that'd be kind of cool to preach like that, be way
up there.
Yeah, way up there doing a sermon.
Okay, we're gonna set you up like for that in the next sermon here. At
Put me
Harbor
on a
Light.
lift up way up there.
You
To
go
lift.
from the top of the scaffolding.
Hey, I'm up here. Listen to me. So be praying for pastors. I mean, this is the thing that was really kind of a encouragement to me is that, we got pastors, pray for Pastor Gary, people that are leadership of our church. There's a lot more pressure than you think that's going on behind the scenes. And not only from people, but from the devil trying to find ways to remove leadership from the church. So we become leaderless. So we need to keep them in prayer. And this just proves that American pastors are under attack. And if you think that it's an easy job just because they may speak on a Sunday and, it seems like it could be easy thing to do, it's not.
Right.
There's a lot of attack emotionally, spiritually. So, keep pastors in prayer because it's affecting.
Number 1 and number 2 reasons that pastors bail out. Number 1 is the immense stress of the job. About 56% of pastors report that. And then 43% that they feel lonely and isolated.
Yeah.
So you got this incredible amount of pressure, and you're doing it all by yourself. Those are the two number one reasons, the two top reasons for pastors to leave the ministry.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Yeah. Because, the isolated part is because, I mean, really, who can you talk to? Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, you try to have some friends in the church.
Right.
But you got to be careful. You know, you got to be careful a lot of times with some of those relationships because you can't obviously be open about everything.
Sure.
Because you have, confidentiality issues and everything. But yeah, it's tough. And so I don't even know how pastors that are single do it.
Oh gosh, that got to be tough.
I mean, what do you do? Talk to your cat or your dog or your fish or?
Probably safest.
Yeah.
Chickens.
No chickens. Yeah, go out and talk to the chickens for a while. Maybe that's probably a good thing for you. Just go out in the chicken coop.
I'm going to go out and sit in the coop for a while, just kind of share, unload my heart. That'd be good.
Yeah, they'll listen to you. Mm-hmm. You got some little corn feed in your hand, boy. They'll be hanging out.
We've
with
already
you.
got these chickens that we got. We've only got them, like a week now.
Yeah,
and they are like pets. All you gotta do is just walk down there. You don't have to shake anything. Just walk down there, they'll come running.
Yeah.
And then they get involved in everything you're doing. So I was trying to fix the chicken coop up the other day, and it's like, move out of the way. I've got to put the screw in here. And they're trying to help you. They've got their head right down there looking.
Do they know that there's a massacre that's going to come at some point?
Well,
because there was a chicken massacre that you told me about a while back.
Yeah.
Is this going to be sort of a repeat of?
No, these chickens are fresh layers, so we're going to have them for a couple years.
Yeah. You're going to give them some time before the axe comes out.
When they see the next batch being brooded up, they'll know the time's coming close.
You guys are going, we love you, but we love you more on our plate. Yeah. It's good fresh meat, I don't know. Well, I think it'd be awesome. Well, because you said that you guys are getting fresh eggs every day.
Yeah, dozen a day.
Because they're good layers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I got to tell you guys about this one little thing. So my grandson, who loves the chickens, he was down there. There was one in the laying box.
Yeah.
And we have this little lid you can lift up and look underneath.
Yeah.
Right? And the egg dropped out of the chicken. He moved the chicken out of the way, got the egg, and then ran it up to Mimi, and then she fried it. Probably within 5 minutes, he had the freshest fried egg you could possibly have.
Yeah, you could ever have, yeah.
Yeah, the only way we're going to beat that is to put the fryer down in the coop.
The little setup where it comes down.
Comes right down to cracks and goes into your... Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, I guess I've never really had an egg that fresh before, but I don't know. Did I tell you the egg story at my house?
No.
Amy had got a bunch of farm fresh eggs from somebody in the church.
Right.
She put them in packages that have the dates, they're expired. So everybody knows I can't smell and I can't really taste very well.
Okay.
So I can't always taste if something's gone bad.
Is that from hot sauce? But go ahead,
No,
keep
it's
going.
from all the hot sauce. And so I get these eggs in my fridge and I'm like, I'm going to have some eggs. Well, it's just gone. So I'm looking at the package and the dates are all off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you trying to do? Kill me? So, because I can't figure out if they're bad or not. And so I pitched them all. And then she's like, calls me one time in Indonesia and she's like, why don't you have some eggs? There's a whole bunch of eggs in there. I'm like, they're all bad. So you left me with a bunch of bad eggs. And she's like, no, the packages was not the right date. I gave you farm fresh eggs. I'm like, well, why'd you tell me? Because I thought that they're all bad. And then
the carton had like last year's date on it.
No, that's the thing. It was like a few months before. And I'm like, it's been sitting here for a couple months. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not eating these eggs. And so one of the farmer type people in the congregation told me how to tell if an egg's bad with water.
Okay.
And so I guess that's what I'm going to start using now.
Nice.
Because I don't know.
If you don't wash the eggs, you just keep them kind of like freshly out of the chicken.
Yeah.
They'll last like 4 months. If you wash them, it loses its protective coating and then lasts like a month.
That's what I've heard too.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm waiting for Lisa Kay to make some more of those pickled eggs that she made that one time.
She gave away a whole bunch last night.
Oh man.
Yep.
Those were so good. She made a batch from one time and must have had like 3 or 4. Pretty sure. We'll take an ID break. Be right back.
More podcasts where curiosity meets insight. Tune in, delve deeper, and discover more.
All right, it's time for the question of the week. If you want to be a part of the question, Leslie Budnick, thank you, just won a T-shirt.
Yep, gave that to her husband, and I know he got it to her. So she got it.
Probably wear it on Sunday.
Yeah, there we go. Leslie, we're looking for the shirt.
Yeah, right. I'm always a little leery on the size thing. I don't know. So
Yeah.
if she wants to trade in for another size, I got a bunch. Yeah,
I'm sure you guessed one.
yeah, we'll make it work. I've got quite a little stash of them now. But you know what I found the other day
What's that?
is those water bottle koozies that we got last year.
Yeah.
I have a whole stack of them in my office
Okay.
that we need to give away.
All right.
So
Bear River Health.
here you go. Take them. So if you want to be a part of this, all you have to do is write it into harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com. Excuse me, harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com. All lowercase. And let us know what you think the answer was. Now, last week, the question was,
What are the two things
Yeah.
that people steal or take from God?
and
And I didn't even cover it in the message. So
you didn't, but
No.
people did give me two things.
Oh, good.
And so I'm like, yeah, that's good. I think it's a good answer.
Okay.
So do you remember the answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tithes and offerings.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you didn't say it like that, but there's parts where you alluded to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were on the subject
Yeah,
matter.
we're
I
on the
just
sub-
didn't
yeah.
go there.
But yeah, people did write that in there. And so we've got quite a few that have got their names in the drawing for
Good.
the big question at the end of the month. So this week, what is the question?
Well, we are coming, we're going to kind of break away from the generosity thing, and we are going to be moving towards Holy Spirit. And so I have looked up my main verse for this particular weekend, and I'm going to give you now there's only two things in the Bible that you're allowed to have in excess. Okay, you can't drink too much, you can't eat too much. Those are all sins.
Yeah.
All right. So what are the two things that you're allowed to have in excess?
Okay.
And they're not found in the same location in the Bible, but you should be able to get them.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I
And I
might
know
have to-
you know them.
Yeah. You will have to write the answer down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know them, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm on the same page with you.
I know you know one of them for sure.
I'll ask you after
Okay.
we get off there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are two things that you're
Two
allowed to
things.
have in excess, and there's no sin with it.
None.
You can have all you want.
It's kind of like calorie free stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not. There's no repercussions.
You can have all you want.
Just do it. Yeah. Well, if you know the answer to that, send it to harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com. harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com. All lowercase. And your name will be put in the drawing for the T-shirt at the end of this month. Mm-hmm. And again, our big winner, Leslie Budnick.
I'll tell you, you handed me Leslie's shirt at the staff meeting for me to give to her. And I thought you were handing me a shirt for myself. And my face lit up. I was
I
like,
know.
oh, sweet.
I just let you
and
down.
then you're like, that's for Leslie.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I got a whole box if you need one.
Right.
It's-
I wanted the logo on the back on mine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. You want one with the logo on the back.
Yeah.
I'll have to print some up like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have to do that. Because these are all on the front. Mm-hmm. You know what we should do?
What's that?
We should do the logo on the back and then Pastor Gary quote in the front.
Oh, okay.
So then we kind of give the. I like the idea that Shelley Dale came up with. Like, have a lot of them with different random quotes,
Right.
and then you never know which one you're going to get.
There you go.
And it's kind of like a one of a kind.
And I got a text from Danielle that I was supposed to give the quote from last week's message, and I gave it to her, and then she put it out on Facebook, and I saw it, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, you noticed that we're putting those sermon shots out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This week, it's the story you gave about the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's the Brit. I think it's kind of cool how it's all this. There's nothing that we're doing amazing. It's just this AI puts in the words where they're supposed to be
Okay.
as you're watching it, so it's following you. And it's just kind of a cool little thing that just figures it out. So what it does is it gets on your sermon and it tries to figure out which is the most impactful like section, and then it gives me a choice of all the different sections that I can look at. So I go through them
Okay.
Try to figure it out, and then
So there is some human.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and some of them though. What's interesting is that if you don't stop or pause in a section, like it's kind of like a run-on thought. Mm-hmm. It has a hard time figuring that out. So
Okay.
sometimes I'll think, well, this is gonna be a good one, and then it keeps going, and I'm like, oh crud.
It's because
So-
I couldn't breathe. I just kept talking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I've got to look for those little sections that kind of like little encapsulated things, because you can't really put out more than about a minute,
Right.
on like Instagram and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll take an ID break and be right back. Woo! Wait, you just jumped into a whole hornet's nest of awesomeness. I'm just saying right now, you better get yourself ready, because we got more stuff for you on the Mo Podcast. Louise, come on, get over here, because we're getting ready for the Mo Podcast. Well, today on Bible Talk, we are discussing with Pastor Gary on his new series, Overflow. This week, he focused on culture of overflow. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 through 2, continuing on with his comparison of the churches in Macedonia and Corinth. And Pastor Gary made even more connections to other places in the Bible, affirming the responsibility we have as God's people to give to the kingdom. Pastor Gary,
Yes.
you're on.
Okay.
We're talking about your message on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I really like the idea of your focus on creating a culture of overflow, because it's really symbolic of us here at Harbor Light. I mean, it seems to be part of our DNA
Yeah.
that we try to pass on to everybody that comes to our church.
Yep.
To be a part of it.
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
The people of Harbor Light have been very generous, and I think that it kind of reflects back even onto our, founder, Pastor Bill and Karen, very generous people. And obviously just to get the church going, they had to, invest themselves into it. And so that has never wavered, and it continues to be expanding. And I even heard stories later after Sunday of people being generous towards one another.
Yeah.
So it's definitely deeply ingrained in who we are.
And it's amazing how people that come to our community realize how important that is. It's not, I think it's interesting. It's not like we want people to come to the church because they can get something. It's you come to the church to learn how to be more sacrificial.
Absolutely.
And give more.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people begin to realize, that we're not a social safety net where it's a gimme, but we're trying to teach people to learn how to give more effectively.
It's kind of crazy. I was listening to a talk show this morning, and the host read a passage of scripture.
Oh.
And it was like, don't be a person who steals from others, but go out and get yourself a job, and then you'll become a person who's productive enough to be able to help others. So even in a verse that says stop stealing, the end result is to be a blessing to others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. I was talking with my oldest about this, and all the scriptures in Proverbs over and over again talk about how to be productive, how to be a giver, how to, don't be a person that's always trying to get, try to give more.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a constant in the grand scheme of scripture. And I think what's interesting is that you've done, and I know Pastor Bill did as well, and we all try to do our part, but teaching biblical principles of what it means to be good stewards and having an attitude of generosity and the importance of giving. And it's not necessarily just about giving and tithe, and offering. And you went into the idea of tithe quite a bit, and I thought that was a really good explanation of what it meant, because I don't think a lot of people understand that. And you mentioned it in Sunday that a lot of people think it's an Old Testament thing,
Right.
but we see it all through Scripture.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's all the way back to Genesis chapter 4.
Yeah.
And I love this because when you look at the language and the wording, it says, in the time of year when the crops were harvested, Cain and Abel brought their gifts to the Lord. That language there at the beginning says all the way back to, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel.
Yeah.
There was a time of year when harvest took place, but there was also a time of year when you brought your gift to the Lord.
Right. Yeah.
So this goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 4. Leaving the Garden of Eden, this concept of giving your first and your best was put in place right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, of course, jumping all the way to Genesis chapter 14, when Abram, goes out and he has to fight off these bad guys, and he gets a bunch of his stuff back, but he also got some spoils from that war. He runs across this man known as Melchizedek, or different ways to say that, of course. But and he was the king of Salem and the high priest of the Most High God, which was interesting because this is before the established priesthood of Aaron. And then it says that Abram gave a tenth of the spoils to him. So here's this concept of a tenth or a test, or that's pre-Moses and the law.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting, you pointed out, is that right there is established at least this line drawn in the sand of this tenth that we don't necessarily always think is that important, but it is a baseline to start. Right. And you mentioned that tenth actually means something else.
It actually means
in Scripture.
It means test.
Test, yeah. And that's what really got me thinking when you were talking about it, because it is a test of your faith in God that He's going to take care of. And you said the other 90%. Are you going to be faithful in that regard? So it's not like God needs your finances.
Correct.
So it's more of a heart condition for us.
Right.
And you mentioned later on that what made Macedonia so much better than Corinth was because of their heart situation, as opposed to them trying to calculate the dollars and cents and what we've given and look at what we've done. And I think that's really interesting, because that's what we try to get people to understand here. And I know we talked about this at some length in my small group about it. And I mentioned that, when Paul talks about it, he's like, be prepared to give it all. That's a heart condition that God's actually looking for.
Absolutely.
Not just a calculated 10%, but to give, be willing to give everything to be asked and requires of it.
That's Acts chapter 4, right?
Yeah.
And then when people were in need, others came, sold land, property, houses, and gave that money, laid it at the feet of the apostles for them to distribute where it needed to be. That's giving it all.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of biblical principles on this, and you highlighted quite a few over and over again in Scripture. But another thing that I think is interesting about our church is that we do lead by example, right?
Right.
I mean, you just can't talk about it in the Bible, and then everybody's like, well, I wonder how this is going to play out.
Yeah.
Over and over again, you share examples. We've got people in the church that are always an example of this, of leading the other people in this idea, because you can't expect people to understand the generosity of the kingdom if they don't see it in play. Right. And you see it, right?
Yep. Yeah. That was that idea, some lessons are caught better than taught. Yeah. And, our founding pastor was a very generous person, and he put it on display, and it inspired people to be involved. And we have a church staff, and I gave that story about raising sponsorships for children's ministry training. People just said, I'll cover one, and very quickly. So my mentor refuses to hire people that aren't, tithers or regular givers. You can't even be on staff unless you've already have the heart of generosity flowing. But, and I'm pretty confident that the staff that we have here at Harbor Light are all regular givers or tithers, and go way above and beyond that, of course.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it's interesting because I don't think anybody on staff is like, oh my gosh, we don't have enough money. Right. And we're expected to give. I think it's just part of your DNA. At some point, you just do it. And that's where we want everybody to be in the church, experience this idea of generosity, and then share it with everybody else. Because, the next generation is watching everything we're doing. Right. As a parent, when you're in the car before church and you're arguing about what you're going to give on Sunday because you've got other things you want to spend your money on. I'm telling you right now, your kids hear that. Yeah. And then they get the attitude, well, I don't need to take that so seriously. But, that's what we're trying to get people to do, is change that thinking. The reality is, what you have, the resources you have, is not yours to begin with. Right. You're a steward of that stuff. And so even though you get the benefits of it by having things in life and enjoying things, it still comes down to you're stewarding it. Right. God's given you that resource to be used. And, that's a tough thing. I think in the flesh, we get this mindset that, what I've done, this is mine. This is my own castle, my own kingdom. And it's unfortunate, that people get like that. But that is an attitude of the world that we're constantly trying to fight against, because, the truth is, what if God does require, you to do something that's beyond what you normally do? Yeah. And we've got countless cases in our church where people have been blessed beyond blessed. And it's amazing how you see that they're the most generous people out of anybody else. And then then you got some people that are like nickel and dime and everything. And I know it's tough. We live in a tough time. I mean, I went and got gas the other day, $75 to fill up my car.
Wow.
At $3.67 a gallon. And I used an app to try to save money. And I'm like, we live in tough times. I cannot believe how much we spend
Right.
to just do life. We're not like doing anything extra, right? And I was sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I can see how people, that's a temptation, right? The devil, I'm sure, manipulates that temptation all the time. But, you mentioned a few Sundays ago about the woman with the flask, it's that issue of faith.
That's why I made reference to how I was brought up, that you, even when we set up our budget on a piece of paper, this is something else my mom instilled in all of us. When you set up your budget on a piece of paper, the first thing you write on the paper is the word tithe. Yeah. And because if you don't give it at the beginning, there's going to be nothing at the end.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Right. And so you do it so that you can afford, because if you're going to do it the other way, you'll never be able to afford to give to God.
Yeah. And somebody, it's funny because somebody in my small group said the reason why that doesn't work is because you'll spend it all. And then when you get to the end,
right, there's nothing
left. Yeah. Because you can find all different kinds of ways to spend that money, Yeah. And that's one thing that, Amy and I were talking about, because we were challenged, the Lord's blessed us, and how can we increase? Because you mentioned that you and Lisa Kay are always looking for ways to increase your regular giving.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's something we need to take a look at too. I mean, it might not be a huge increase, but it's going to be an increase more than what we normally give.
Yeah, we're looking for ways to sharpen our sword.
Yeah.
And we do that. The giving statement at the end of the year helps us track how we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a wonderful principle. I just, really felt so encouraged with it, to give a little at the beginning of the week. Yeah. Set that portion aside, because it's going to be a lot easier to do it in little increments versus one giant one at the end of the year. And so when we get our statement of giving here at Harper Light, which doesn't even reflect all the giving, because we give a lot of, to a lot of people and things that we don't get to track.
Yeah.
But we're trying to sharpen our sword and get it more and more sharp every year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just really, it's just awesome. And I know you guys are always looking for ways to like increase what you call a ministry fund. And all the staff, I think most of us are doing that. I think all of us are putting stuff away for a ministry fund. I know that when we first came on staff, that's one thing you encouraged us to do, is to start thinking that way, to have, to put a little bit aside, just so that when you are required to do something above and beyond, you have the resource, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so we got like a little jar, we put change and stuff in, and it adds up, but it's there.
It's wonderful you're bringing that up. I think the Lord just laid it on my heart. The lady that gave the 2 coins that we talked about a week ago, I think if she would have had 4, she would have gave 4.
Yeah.
But she only had 2, so she gave those 2, right?
Right.
If we have resources, then it allows us to be even more generous.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that you've kind of alluded to here is the concept, the biblical concept and principle is percentage giving, right? Because in that particular example, she gave 2 coins, and then the wealthy people gave just a little portion of their surplus, right? The dollar amount was way disproportionate, right?
Right.
But percentage wise, and I believe that if you ever run for president of the United States, I believe that we should all be giving a certain percentage to our government,
right?
And if you're multi-millionaire, you should give. We'll just throw out the number 10, right? You maybe give 10%, and then the person who is just barely getting by, they should still give 10%,
right?
And then the Lord makes that all happen,
right?
And so we're all contributing. So when you run for president, I would go for the flat tax, percentage tax,
right?
Okay,
on everything,
percentage tax.
It's interesting you mentioned the lady with the 2 coins, because there was a standard temple tax or synagogue tax, and the guy who gave the money, the bag of money, he's paying the standard tax, but she probably didn't even cover her tax or her synagogue tax, but she gave everything she had, and I think it goes back to this idea that sometimes get in the mindset that it's a pay to play thing, right?
Yeah.
If we give a certain amount, then God's going to bless us. God's going to be on our side.
Right.
It doesn't. No, that's what the pagans thought. You
Yeah.
know, because they would pay a tax so that the gods would be happy with them. We're not doing that. That's not the point of this.
Yeah.
Again, getting back to the idea of a test, it's giving in faith. You know what you feel God's laid on your heart required you to do, at knowing that God's going to take care of the rest of what you have, but the amount necessarily is not the case.
Right.
It's the heart condition behind it.
Yeah.
And what God is looking for is if I'm asking you to give two copper coins, and that's all you have, and that's what I'm requiring you to give, would you be willing to do it? And one thing we mentioned in our small group is that the issue is when you get to the point where you say no, I'm not. That's a problem. Yeah,
You just shut off the spigot.
you just set off the spigot. Yeah, and that's the problem. And so God does test us, right? He does test that amount sometimes. Like I'm sure you've experienced that. I know you shared stories where God says, "I want you to give a little bit more," and you're like, "What the heck?" You know, I got all these things going on in my head, and you know, you have a response that you have a choice to make. You can either say no or I'm going to.
You know, the type of giving that my wife and I, our savings, you know, we have the envelope, the Dave Ramsey envelope plan, right? So we put money in the envelope to cover the bills. I have money in an envelope for things that I'm saving up for that I personally want. And the Lord every once in a while would say, I want you to dip into that, which, you know, prolongs me not being able to get that if I'm going to go with just my own math.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But then the Lord always gives back in a tremendous way. And I'm able to make my envelope grow and get the things that I'm desiring.
Yeah.
I have desires just like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So do you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I know, and it's an interesting thing when people finally get a hold of that, and then that's part of the financial education that we try to do here with people. Is that finance is one of them, but we talk about times or talents and treasure, or what is it? Talents and time. Trying to get that out. Those are also things that we tithe in,
right?
Giving our time, and some people, you know, may not have money to give, but they can give their time and their talents in that as well.
Absolutely.
And we see that happening quite a bit with certain people in the community here because they do have ability to do all kinds of things. And it's amazing to see that. One of the things that I love here at the church too is that we share those stories, which is just so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is the trap, and I've made mention of it even in this series, that, you know, when we give, we're supposed to give so the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the message behind that and the principle behind it is we don't give to get praise.
Right.
We don't
Yeah.
give so that, you know, we can impress other people. But as we look, and it's over and over and over in the scriptures, where people gave, but it inspired others to give. Well, you can't do that in secret. Okay.
Right.
And Paul, when he goes through his list of sacrifices that he has made for the gospel, he's, you know, shipwrecked multiple times, night and day in the sea, you know, beaten, robbed, left for dead, in jail,
multiple times,
right?
yeah.
Took the 39 stripes multiple times, right?
Yeah.
He's telling you what he's done
Right.
to inspire you, right? And so when you give, it's okay to inspire other people with the story behind it, especially when you see the Lord, you know, come through in a miraculous way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but if you're giving to impress other people, then you've just got your reward here and there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But if your giving inspires others to give and be involved or whatever it is, you know, the Lord's going to just multiply that and turn that over multiple times.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times what it shows is God taking care of our need, right? Going back to what Jesus said, that, you know, even the birds of the air, don't worry about anything, you know, and that's what you're pointing to, is that my daily bread is taken care of. And that's what I'm showing you, is that, you know, as opposed to somebody like, you know, God loves me so much, he gave me a mansion or whatever it may be. I don't, you know, that to me is not the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's, that just looks like somebody is getting a lot of kickbacks from their investments in the kingdom. Yeah.
Right. And you know, you've already kind of pointed it out that the result of our giving is always so that we can give more.
Yeah.
Right. So we can be even more influential and more inspiring and make a bigger difference. And so, you know, when I give, the Lord's going to bless so that I have some to overflow.
Yeah.
I'll have even more to overflow. And that was one of our closing scriptures from this last week. And so, you know, the blessing trifecta is what we called it, right? From 2 Corinthians 9, right? You're going to meet the needs of the believers.
Yep.
They're going to express joy to God, and then they're going to pray for you with deep affection because of your overflowing grace that
Yeah.
God's got. God wants to overflow so that you can be an even bigger participant in the kingdom.
Yeah. So, in closing, I mean, I think people should pray for the ability and gift of generosity. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking God to give you more so you could do more.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
And so, I mean, whatever that looks like for you, maybe it's finances or time, whatever it is. I think it's interesting because I just had a conversation with somebody that just moving into retirement, and they prayed, God, help me to be able to do more for the church and the kingdom.
Yeah.
Well, God gave them time.
Yeah.
They're in retirement.
Right.
They may be on a fixed income, but they have the ability to give more time than they've ever done before. And that's good. That's, God providing you the opportunity to give in generosity. So yeah, it's a very valuable tool to teach.
Well, as we get ready to launch into this weekend coming up, which will be the conclusion
Of the series.
of the series, we're going to move over into Holy Spirit and having an overflowing relationship with the Holy Spirit and what that looks like, and God's desire for that area as well. And so I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I've already been in preparation for that, and I'm excited about what the Lord's going to share. And I'm just believing that we're going to get ready to turn a corner with an even more overflowing power and demonstration of God's Holy Spirit in our lives.
And you built this one up, man. This is the best sermon ever.
I was talking without thinking. It may have come off a little bit arrogant, and I didn't mean for that to happen. But I just believe I'm going to have the greatest sermon that I've ever given, because I'm talking about the things that, are important to God. Jesus talked about them. So I'm just going to repeat his words, and he's the greatest preacher.
Yeah,
of all
right.
time.
Yeah.
But here's the funny part that I'm on grandpa duty this week.
Yeah.
And so my normal sitting on the couch for 20 hours and studying, that's not going to be there. So this is literally going to be Holy Spirit grabbing a hold of this message and driving it home in people's hearts.
Oh, sure. It'd be great. Yeah. Well, that's always interesting. Life has a way of doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't just get to go off into the sunset somewhere.
Spend the whole 40 hours studying for the weekend.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. Right. Well, any closing thoughts on this idea?
No, I just really appreciate you and appreciate the hard work you put into the podcast, and we do have some big plans coming up for the summer. We were expanding upon those at the staff meeting the other day. Harbor Light and people that listen to this podcast, I would say, I would kind of just say, Lord, I am ready to go with you wherever you take me in this next year through this tool. Right. And let's get ready to see God do some really super amazing things in your life. I would say even on par with like free life kind of experiences that people are going to have right through this podcast, through the messages, through small groups. It's going to be a fantastic year.
Big, hairy, audacious prayers. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
Be hap. Got to have some be hap prayers.
Be hap. Yeah. That should be on a,
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah. Hashtag be hap. Mm-hmm. And we would all know what it meant.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that. Well, we'll see you next week and have a good time with enjoying the weather. I think the weather's going to be a lot better this week.
Okay.
I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see.
We want you to know, find, discover, change with us. More podcast ending transmission. Now.